People who took revenge on their bully. What happened? I learned how to fight, then beat the heck out of him. He left me alone from then on. Got in trouble with the school, but when they called my dad to tell him I was fighting, he said yeah, I bet. I paid for the lessons. Was it that little crap who's been bullying him? I did not get in trouble at home. Good on your dad. 2 random strangers came during a bullying session in a public place, and they punched my bully for some time while calling me their friend. His entire class was afraid of me after that. I still don't know who my saviors were, but thank you. Dang. Didn't even want anything in return. They literally saw someone getting picked on, beat the butthole doing it, made a point of how you were their friend and left. Literal freaking superheroes. In junior high some little crap was always picking on me, and one day I was really mad about something else going on at home, so when he came up to me, I hit him in the face with the heel of my gym shoe, broke his nose and a few teeth. Teacher gave me a lecture but no punishment. He didn't bother me again, so it was worth it. Your teacher knew. In my secondary school, when you were about to leave, you'd wear your school uniform shirt on the last day and people would sign it for you. There was also an option to wear your own clothes for the last few days. So this guy who was leaving came decked out in the best of 1980s sports fashion, wielding a permanent marker, and instead of signing the shirts of leavers he went around scribbling on the shirts of kids who were younger. Now bear in mind we were pretty poor, and if I came home with my uniform in a mess I'd get grief because we couldn't afford to replace it. He grabbed me and scribbled all over my shirt, and somehow, using as yet unknown Quicksilver powers, I grabbed the marker off him and managed to scribble not only all over his Sergio douchebag windbreaker, but all over his face and neck. He punched me in the tit. I'm a girl, but it was worth it. I hope your tit is okay. D. I hate the term bully in this context, but a former man-child neighbor had issues understanding that it wasn't okay to throw his garbage in my yard, or let his drunk friends pee on my house. When the county cops didn't do anything about numerous calls, I started bagging the garbage and throwing it on his porch. He escalated to putting rat poison in hot dogs and throwing them to my German Shepherd mix. I saw her convulsing and found 3 packages worth of hot dogs studded with pellets right along the fence. She pulled through, no worse for wear. Cops said I couldn't prove who did it, so the next time he threw garbage in my yard, which usually contained the guts waste from his hunting and fishing, I gathered fish guts into a bag, waited until he left, and put them in the rafters of his porch, under the hedges in his yard, and finally inside his air conditioner unit. About 3 days later he had all the doors and windows open. The following week he was having the carpet replaced throughout the house. Eventually the guts rotted away and the smell faded, but I think he knew I did it, because I never found trash in my yard again. Do not frick with my dogs. When I was about 7 years old, there was a girl on the bus who would pull my hair and pick on me. I would come home crying. My parents asked the driver to move our assigned seating, but they refused. My dad asked me how I could fix the problem. I responded, how can I do anything if I'm not allowed to hit, as was the rule. Dad, you're not allowed to hit, but you're allowed to not get hit. He explained what I should do and I did it. When the girl sat next to me, I should put my back against the wall, my feet on her thigh, and slide her off the seat. She fell, cried. I got in trouble and the assigned seating was moved. Problem solved. Apologies for the formatting, as I am currently on mobile. TLDR. Pushed her out of my seat, making her cry, to convince the bus driver to change our assigned seating. It's ridiculous that you weren't allowed to change seats despite repeated complaints, but you push back once and it all changes for her. Not a bully to me, but rather a bully whose crap I put an end to. High school craphead screaming, "Frick you little b," at an elementary school kid walking home. Smacked the back of his head as hard as humanly possible and said, "Frick you little b." He never pulled that crap again. And then an endless line of backhead smacking for Kyle little bitches was born. My buddy and I pulled a prank on a bully, Adam. During the last 2 weeks of high school, we were hanging out at home playing video games and Adam surprised us by stopping by, under the guise of wanting to be friends. Despite having picked on us for the better part of 4 years, and one time, stabbing me with a pencil. Within about 5 minutes, he was pressuring me to write his final assignment for him, a speech for debate class. At first I said no. I mean, what is this? Some comic book cliche? What will he demand next? My milk money too. But my buddy kept winking at me, putting the pressure on, and convinced me that we should do it. After some negotiation we agreed to put together a speech for him, but only if Adam would pay $25 and also pick up a rather elaborate dinner order from Wendy's for us to eat that night. He agreed. My buddy and I ate well that night, and we had a plan. What we actually gave Adam was a quickly and pretty poorly written, and somewhat incendiary, speech about the silliness of Martin Luther King Day and how, if America really wanted to celebrate a true hero, it would instead be Joe Namath Day. I'm serious. That's what we wrote. We honestly believed Adam would read this at home, realize he'd been had, and be forced to rewrite and memorize a new speech in the wee hours of the night. Except it didn't go down that way. Imagine my surprise when Adam actually delivered that very speech in class the next day. He didn't have the memorization down. He kept referencing his papers, but he marched on, and the look on our teacher's face was just priceless. I think I peed my pants. I was giggling so hard. The other kids in the classroom were in shock. As I recall, the teacher made Adam stop his presentation. She told him to leave the classroom and she yelled at him in the hallway. As far as I know, Adam never fessed up that he hadn't actually written that paper, and I'm still not quite sure he ever really figured out just how brilliantly he'd been played. I was in 4th grade and had been bullied by a kid named Rocky. Swear to God that was his name, LOL. Who was in 6th grade. Anyway, he would trip me, knock books out of my hands, punch me, etc. One day out on the playground he pushed me into the merry-go-round while it was spinning. I was rolled around inside it while people were trying to stop it. The whole time he's laughing at me. I get pulled out and I'm scraped up pretty good. Get taken to the office to get patched up. Teachers ask what happened. I told them I fell. Went back outside and saw him standing there with his buddies. I ran as fast as I could toward him and punched him as hard as I could in the face. Broke his nose and just stood there looking at him ready to fight. His buddies told him to leave me alone and I never got picked on again at school. You're lucky he wasn't a Rocky of the Three Ninjas variety. Not me, but a good friend of mine. Sophomores in high school, Eric kept a Gatorade in the side pocket of his book bag for lunch every day. Just before second period would start, Eric would put his bag down in class and go to the bathroom. When he would come back, his Gatorade was always empty. This went on for about 2 weeks and no one would ever tell him who it was. When finally one day he came back from the bathroom to another kid running out of the room retching and holding his pants. Apparently, Eric had had enough of his Gatorade being taken and had put a few drops, half a bottle of Visine in the Gatorade before he came to school. The kid had to be admitted to hospital a few days later for dehydration from so much throwing up diarrhea from the Visine. Eric finally knew who it was and no one drank his Gatorade anymore. Name changed. I grew up in a small town. We had one girl everyone thought was the prettiest girl in the whole wide school. She was a mean, petty bee. Truly awful. For example, my cat died when I was in 5th grade. She sat behind me muttering about how funny it was that my cat died, that he was a stupid cat, that he died because my mom was too poor to take him to the vet, and urging me to cry. Are you gonna cry? Are you gonna cry about it? Like a big baby? Big baby cry over your stupid cat? Everyone's gonna see you cry. You're about to cry, aren't you? And so on. This wasn't even the meanest thing she did, and she was mean to everyone. One day in 6th grade, I'd had enough. She didn't even do anything truly awful. I was just like, frick Jennifer G, and decided to do something about her. I stole one of my mom's little index recipe cards and meticulously wrote "I stuff my bra" in big bold letters. I stuffed it and a little gold safety pin in my jacket pocket. The next day I carefully affixed this to the back of her pink members only jacket just before first bell rang. She walked around with this dang note on all day, confused as to why people were laughing at her. She screamed and screamed when she found it, and she cried. Everyone saw her cry. Not really a bully so much, but I was working at my university in the division of student life as a GA, and had worked myself into a great position where people trusted me and relied on my advice. One night at a big party at a local university bar, I had the craving for a cigarette. I asked this group of girls if they had one, and being one to not bump straight up, I offered a coupon I had for free McDonald's fries if someone would give me one. One of the cuter girls there with a pink stripe in her hair said yes, pulled out her cigs, and I gave her the coupon. She then put her cigs back in her pocket and told me to frick off after stealing my fry coupon. I was pee off at this point and tried reasoning with her. Seriously, over one cigarette. She then called over a couple of guy friends and said that I was falsely accusing her of stealing from me, and her friends all backed her up. She looked me in the eyes and said you shouldn't be so trusting. Fast forward to Monday, we had job interviews for the division and I happened to be passing through replacing a computer. I also happened to see the same pink stripe in hair individual that had stolen the McDonald's coupon from me the week before in line. I went to the person conducting the interviews and told him that she was a thief and a liar. On my way out, I smiled and waved. She didn't recognize me, she didn't get the job, and the interviewer thanked me for my contribution to the interview process. I told him if he told me to kill myself one more time I'd punch him in the face. He didn't believe me and told me to go kill myself. I punched him in the face, broke his glasses and gave him a nosebleed and he never spoke to me again. I wouldn't say I took revenge. I just finally snapped like Ralphie from A Christmas Story one day and started repeatedly punching him. In the middle of maths class, the teacher took me out of the class and I figured that I was doomed and on my way to see the headmaster. She said she knew he was a bully, but hitting people in her class was not okay and never to do it again. Then she placed him on detention. The bully gave some kind of grudging apology the next day and said he respected me for finally standing up for myself. Well, thanks I guess. He never bothered me again anyway. God, that respected for finally standing up thing pisses me off. You should just give people a basic respect and they shouldn't have to stop taking your crap just to earn respect. Acts like you deserve to be bullied for not being a crappy person. Good on you for not taking it, but what a backhanded compliment. I had a friend who had a bully. He had a locker above my friend and would intentionally drop books on her head, push her around, insult her throughout the year, and we all had a class together where he was generally a dong to anyone that he could. Before class started and anyone else was in class yet, the teacher had to step out for a bit, and it was just us three in the room. My friend was and still is very tiny, but that day, it didn't matter. She snapped and had enough of his crap and went on the attack. I don't think she could have done much damage on her own, but I stepped in. Puberty was swift for me and I was one of the largest kids in school. By 5th grade I was already the size of an adult woman. I pinned him to the wall and let my friend kick the crap out of him and punch him in the balls. He didn't speak to either of us after that, and we never got into any trouble. I don't think he wanted to tell anyone that he got beat up by a couple of girls. This is satisfying. I used to get bullied for my lunch money in middle school by two guys for a year. One of which used to be my friend in elementary school. They would sucker slap me across the face from behind, push me against lockers, spear me. This was when Goldberg was popular in WCW. It got worse because this girl who I am still friends with would stick up for me. What made it worse was because of the fact she was a girl sticking up for a boy, which in their words made me a P but B. Well, as time progressed, I started growing pretty rapidly in height, towering over them. While the two guys were pretty much the same height or only grew a couple inches. They stopped picking on me physically obviously, but verbally kept at it. I guess I just snapped because they were picking on one of my other friends for lunch money and I kneed the guy in the solar plexus and just rammed the other guy's head to a water fountain as hard as I could. The feeling I got after doing that made me so violently hyped and surprised at how light they were. All three of us got ISS for a week. They avoided my presence ever since that incident. I did have to watch my back though because their friends threatened to jump me. Nothing came of it, just a bunch of scared loud hyenas with hurt egos. You're the second person in this thread who got the International Space Station. When I was just a little kid, like 5 years old, my cousin used to bully me. That day, I was wearing a nice dress and my mom told me not to get it dirty. Well, I was playing with a kite outside when he pushed me over into a puddle of mud. I got in a lot of trouble, but my mom told me to do it back next time. Unfortunately, the next time he bothered me was near some stairs. I pushed him, and he fell all the way to the bottom. He was fine, and never bothered me again. I got in trouble again, but my mom also whispered in my ear, "Good job." Just to clear stuff up, my mom was the one who punished me. We were visiting family out of the country, while my dad was back home. She punished me and encouraged me because she had issues. How to parent. As a child I was always much bigger than the other students in my class, both height and weight wise. 5 feet by the time I reached 3rd grade, stopped growing forever at 5 feet 6 by 5th grade, which made me an easy target as the fat girl by the popular boys. Weirdly, the girls never were mean to me. Anyway, in 6th grade it reached its peak because I admittedly was this very weird socially awkward girl, which made me an easy target. This boy, let's say Dan, called me some variation of fat on the bus every single day. Why didn't you just move seats, you may ask? Well, my brain was not that bright. One day I had enough. Dan called me a fattest and I almost moved forward to hit him. That made him and his friends amp it up even more the next day. That day, I lost it. Keep in mind that at this age most boys haven't even started puberty, so Dan was a BC4 something while I was adult sized at age 11. I choked him out and threw him around the back of the bus a few times until his friends pulled me off him. The next day I was called into the office and I immediately broke down, because even though I felt vindicated I still was afraid of getting in trouble. The principal just looked at me and said, "Okay, you can go." I was still so afraid of getting in trouble that the next day I came in and asked her if she had called my mom. "No, if you were in trouble I would have made you call her yourself." Turns out Dan was being investigated for pushing another boy off the bus steps and breaking his nose, so they were trying to build a case for his aggression. I didn't even get talked to. Luckily, that fight gave me a "don't frick with her" reputation that carried on until high school, at which point the bullies kind of became normal humans. Whoa, that felt good to write. In England, I'm aged 15 and I'm on a week-long course with the Naval cadets, CCF, in Portsmouth. The group has around 20 school kids from various schools. In the ship we're staying on we have our own bunk space. Around the corner is a group of actual Navy recruits, aged a few years older than us. So one night a bunch of the recruits invade our bunk space. They grab the 3 youngest looking kids, which includes me. Their leader takes out a padlock and starts hitting my buddy with it. Then he asks, "Does that hurt?" and my buddy says yes. To which the bully says, "Good, I'll do it some more." After a few more whacks, he starts on another kid, asks the same question, to which the reply is no, and his answer is, "I'll have to do it harder then." I'm next in line and I know what's coming. So when he turned to look at me I punched him in the face as hard as I could. I was small at 15 and he was 2 years older, and all crap broke loose. First thing that happened was his mate shoved me off the bunk onto the floor and started jumping on me. The rest of my group laid into the recruits. They were smaller but outnumbered the recruits. Someone pulled the guy off me and I was just about to start kicking the crap out of him when the MP's security petty officers came in and broke up the fight. We all got dragged into the commander's office and ordered, as in actual military orders, to stay out of each other's bunk space. Next day I saw the guy I punched and he had what I assume was a broken nose. I found I had acquired a bit of reputation at school. Sometime later as I'm walking across the schoolyard, a younger, but bigger, kid bumped into me. I say something along the lines of, "Hey, watch it," and he says, "Make me." His buddy comes up and drags him off saying, "Don't frick with him. He's crazy." I was bullied heavily in middle school. I wrestled in high school. At a competition, I found I had to wrestle Josh. He was one of those bullies. I knew I could pin him, or to win. Told my coach about him, and my goal wasn't to pin him, but to hurt him as long as possible. Wrestling match starts. I do every move I can think of that hurts. Didn't try to get him on his back, just kept trying to and jacking up his arms, shoulders. Took a couple shots and checked his crotch with my shoulder since he wasn't wearing a cup. I did the full 6 minutes and won 12-1 on points. He cried. Entire team went ballistic. Coach had told them he used to bully me and they were cheering me on so hard. Felt like the freaking king of the world. I walked off to my team. He limped off to the athletic trainer. TL. Doctor, I wrestled my bully till he cried. WTF, another butthole Josh. Beat him up until he cried. Turns out he wasn't a badass, and his friend didn't back him up. He tried to be friendly in the weeks afterward. Last I heard, he had a bad dirt bike accident. Got addicted to pills and was found after 2 weeks in an unowned house. Freaking sad. His accident happened years later. I missed the part about the accident at first and thought that you beat him so badly that you hospitalized him and that's how he became addicted. This was in kindergarten. Used to get pushed around by a kid. Told my dad about it and he told me to smack him around if he touches me. Fast forward to lining up at the water fountain a few days later. This kid is behind me. He gives me a shove while in line. Whatever. I start taking a drink. He pushes me into the wall. I turn around and punch him in the face. He drops crying. Luck would have it the vice principal would see me punching this kid, but not the kid smashing my head against the wall fountain. So I get called into the office, and my dad is called for a meeting. And this is where it goes south for the vice principal. Dad comes in, all pee off. He works nights, was woken up mid-sleep, and wants to know why I was called to the office. Vice principal tells him of what he saw, and I tell my dad what happened. My dad then proceeds to ask the vice principal how in the frick echoed down the K3 hallway. Do you decide to discipline my kid but not the other kid who has a history of violence in the school? That conversation got progressively heated, and as it was 20 years ago I don't remember much else of it, but I do know as the more the vice principal tried to explain himself in vain the worse his argument became to my dad. At the end of it I wasn't disciplined. The kid never fricked with me again and moved away in grade 6. And the vice principal took a conveniently timed 2-week holiday beginning the day after this occurred, and transferred at the end of the year. Violence solves nothing, they tell you. For me, violence is the only way to keep people from taking advantage of me. Second story. This kid in my grade 9 year liked to pick on me because I was short and stocky. I let him chirp all he wanted until he put hands on me. One shot to the chiclets and the kid started bleeding from the mouth. This happened in front of a good number of his buddies. Suffice to say people didn't frick with me anymore after that in high school. I kind of felt bad for him though. He got some teeth chipped and his parents didn't have benefits for dental care to get them fixed. So he was kind of fricked in that regard. A friend of mine is writing a tell-all book about the horrific abuse her and her siblings suffered as children. These kids were beaten until they passed out from shock. They were starved. They were locked in isolation. They were even violated in that house. But apparently this family were pillars of the community and everybody looked up to them and respected them. When the kids asked for help, nobody believed them. Despite bruises, scars and wounds that couldn't possibly have come from everyday play. She's naming names of the abusive family in question, and all the teachers and social workers who ignored their multiple cries for help over the years. The parents of that family are both dead now, but the kids are still around, and some of the social workers are still in the business. She has names, dates, police, court, and hospital records to back it all up, too. Her lawyer has confirmed all the information, and none of it is libelous. The social service agency in question has already offered her $125,000 not to publish the book. Their first offer was only $7,000, then $25,000, then $70,000. It keeps going up, the more panic they get. She basically told them to go frick themselves. Please. It's going to make our jobs extremely difficult, and it's already tough. When we needed help, you people completely ignored us. Now you're asking me for help? Nope. Too bad. The fact that they're offering her that much money to hush it all up just to cover their own asses when that should be budgeted to helping little kids just goes to show where their priorities really lay. I'm so glad she's sticking to her guns. This is a human being who's woken up screaming with nightmares and flashbacks of psychological torture pretty much every night for 30 years now. They were 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Who the frick does that to little kids? Even doing that to an adult would be cruel and inhumane. And then to be completely ignored by the very people who are paid to protect you, and they think money can just magically fix everything? Disgusting. She basically wants to make sure changes are made and see that this crap never happens to any other kids again, if possible. And they just want to hush her up. Seems to me they're more worried about things that are currently going on than anything that happened 30 years ago. Too bad no one is seeing this. I hope the book gets tons of publicity because that crap is, as you said, disgusting and people should be held accountable for their misconduct regarding those kids. Here's the thing. Technically it was my best mate's bully, but it was my revenge. She was half caste and the only Asian looking girl in the area. This one dong sucker had learned some vile names and delighted in calling her them until she cried. He always did it at the bus stop because we couldn't walk away. I got angry, but she always told me not to do anything because she was worried about it escalating. I promised not to do anything that would make it worse. I like loopholes. I'm also from what some would call an aggressive family. We've fought with each other for as long as I can remember, so the desire to beat the crap out of him was strong. One time he was singing a song that basically was just the P word to a tune with a few uninventive insults thrown in that didn't scan. He was playing up particularly because there was a crowd of largely disinterested older kids also waiting for the bus. I figured a way to frick him over and ensure it wouldn't get worse. I punched him hard in the nose. No warning. Just turned round and lamped him. Now I was a big girl even at 7. So when I put my full force behind the punch, it was nasty and yes, I hurt my hand because I was a dumb kid who didn't know how to punch properly. He staggered back and started crying as his nose began to bleed. The disinterested crowd noted that he'd been made to cry by a girl and ripped the crap out of him. He ran away. They continued laughing. Me and my mate eventually caught our bus and he left us the frick alone forevermore. Oh, and I didn't get into trouble because 1. He had no idea where I lived and 2. Rumor had it his dad was more off that he'd not fought back. Charming man. In high school I had a verbal bully. He never got physical but I would always hear about how fat I was or what I was reading. This was early mid-90s, so manga wasn't as mainstream as it is now. He lived a few streets down and his parents knew he did it. They just didn't care. So in my junior year a new high school opened and I transferred over. He stayed at the old school. I helped set up all the new computers and networks at the new school and graduate. The school then hires me as a computer tech, which was great because it was awesome paying for a 18-year-old. So my first year as a computer tech, and who do I see? That's right. He did something in his senior year at my old school that got him kicked out and had to repeat his junior year. So he was now a year behind me. So I am walking through the hallways with an assistant principal. Dang, I miss him. I would have followed him to a school in heck itself, talking about what computers I was going to move, etc. Bully sees me and just starts up a game like no time had passed. I just stare at him and then at the AP. He lays into my bully about showing proper respect for the faculty and staff while my bully just has this dumbfounded look on his face. It was amazing. That's freaking awesome. She gave me my order at Dairy Queen. She asked how I was doing and I told her, getting a mortgage, engaged, about to graduate with a BS. Asked her how she was doing. Well, I'm here. So, it was deliciously awkward. As many others have said, the best revenge is success. I had a kid in middle school who was kinda mean to me and my friends over the course of the year. One day he tried to strangle me in gym class with a cord kinda jokingly. However, I had had enough and went to the principal with my parents and witnesses of that event. My parents threatened to press attempted murder charges on the kid. Also, he had been caught with a knife in his backpack. Kid was permanently expelled from the school. I believe he is actually in prison now for attempted murder on someone else. Well, my revenge took place years after the bullying, but let me tell ya, the feeling was magnificent. I was driving one night and I got rear-ended. This took me by surprise simply because this was at 3 in the morning and I was the only vehicle on the road at this time in this area. Or so I thought. Turns out he was driving drunk, and I just so happened to have neck pains and trouble sleeping due to the traumatic event. I was able to sue him for enough to pay medical, my vehicle, and a little extra pocket money. That's what you freaking get for pushing me into the locker, Chad. It's always Chad. Frick that guy. There was a boy who picked on pretty much every girl in his grade when we were in grade 7. Him and his friends started getting fairly physical and started grabbing girls' butts and crotches in the hallway between classes. No one ever stood up to him because he was the very tall, cool, athletic, popular kid, and pretty much everyone was intimidated by him. I played trumpet in band class, and I was the only girl who did, in a big group of boys including him, so he picked on me a lot, calling me butch girl and lesbian or dyke simply because I played trumpet instead of flute or clarinet. I wasn't even a tomboy, I was a pretty feminine girl, so he was really reaching. One day he came up behind me in the hallway after school was out, and of course he grabbed me sort of under my butt almost to the front of my crotch so hard that it really hurt. Luckily I was carrying my trumpet case, so I spun around and smashed him in the balls with it. He crumpled down to the ground with tears in his eyes and never bothered me again after that day. Sometimes I feel a little bad though because I wonder if I may have caused him permanent damage. Sometimes I feel a little bad though because I wonder if I may have caused him permanent damage. I hope you did. I smacked the crap out of my sister one Christmas. She was 10 years older than me. I was 10, she was 20. My dad beat my butt on the spot. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.